Hello everyone. In this video we will discuss the difference between measures and calculated columns in Power BI, and I've compiled a list here for us to discuss it, and I'll also suggest some further reading for anyone who's interested. So in case of calculated column, the first one is calculation context. So a calculated column is calculated at a row level. So let's say you defined a calculated column at a row level, for a table. During processing, for each row, that column will be calculated. So this processing will happen row by row by row. And the second thing is that a calculated column is refreshed only when the data model is refreshed. So if the base data model is not refreshed, the calculated columns will not change. Now these calculated columns are stored in the data model, and when we are processing the data model, because of these calculations that we've got, or calculated formulas that we have got, it will occupy more RAM, and it will take longer for the data model to refresh. And if you've got billions of rows, using calculated columns could actually become problematic. And now these can be used by the measures that we define as well. So when do you want to use a calculated column? We can use a calculated column if we want to define some kind of banding, for example, salary between 50,000 to 80,000, 80,000 to 100,000, and so on and so forth. So if you want to do any sort of grouping. However, it is better and preferable to use data aggregation it is preferable to define measures when we are trying to do data aggregation. Now measures are calculated real time based on the context. So depending on the kind of rows you've defined, the measures or the calculation will take effect. It is calculated at report level, and for these we need to define functions like sum, average, mean. When we are using them, it is best to use a measure. A measure is not stored in the data model, and we try to use measures when we are using data aggregation. So this is a quick overview, and then I've got some additional recommended reading. I've also got these pages open, and I will leave these pages with you in the show notes or the video notes. So the first one is calculated columns and measures in DAX. This is by Marco Russo, and I found this article fairly useful. Second one is understanding the difference between calculated columns and measures in Power BI. This is an article in BlueGranite. So I've got both of these articles. And then I've also picked two videos. So one is by Kerwell, which is a pretty good video on calculated columns versus measures. And the other one is by Nick Ryan. So both of these videos are pretty good as well, and I recommend that you go through them. I will be taking additional examples about calculated columns and measures in future videos. I hope you find this video useful, and thanks for watching this video. Please do subscribe to my channel if you enjoy what I'm doing. Thanks.